Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever seen a motorcycle that looks like it was built by a plumber with a dream, floats like a canoe, climbs like a goat, and might just outlive your favorite politician's career? Meet the Rokon Trail-Breaker, a two-wheel drive, gas can on wheels born in the land of pickup trucks and peanut butter. It's not a trail bike, it's not a dirt bike, it's a mechanical fever dream that somehow works. And if you've ever tried riding one uphill while carrying a chainsaw and a deer carcass, you're either a Rokon owner or in therapy. Before we charge both wheels into the woods, don't forget to hit that subscribe button like you're kick-starting a stubborn two-stroke in the snow. Here at Timmy Tiny Wheels, we bring you the weirdest rides on the planet, whether they float, fold, or ignite small arguments at vintage bike shows. So, let's rewind to the late 1950s, when America was obsessed with conquering nature, and every guy named Charlie had an idea that could change the world. Charlie Fehn, a Californian with more gumption than restraint, patented a two-wheel drive motorcycle in 1959. That patent was finally approved in 1966, probably because the examiner needed that long just to understand how the thing worked. Early prototypes, called Trailmaker, looked like something out of a Cold War sci-fi movie. Triangular steel frame, big aluminium wheels, and a central gearbox that sent power to both ends. Enter J.B. Nethercutt, cosmetics mogul, safari enthusiast, and apparently the only man who looked at a two-wheel drive floating bike in Africa and thought, I want that in my garage. He bought Fehn's idea in 1960 and by 1963 began selling it under the name Trail-Breaker from his Nethercutt Industries headquarters in sunny Sylmar, California. But wait, the story only gets weirder. Because in 1964, Orla Larson skier, tinkerer and future founder of Rokon bought the whole show with partner Nick Harris and moved it to Vermont. Why Vermont? Probably because it's got more rocks and mud than roads. By 1966, Larson had incorporated Rokon Inc., named after his ski lodge, On the Rocks, no joke, and they began refining the bike faster than an internet know-it-all types actually in the comment section. They ditched the fancy fluid clutch for a simple centrifugal one, creating the legendary MK3 model, and later that year added a disc brake to the front drivetrain. Yep, that's right, this off-road mutant had the first disc brake ever on a production motorcycle. Cue the applause, or at least a confused nod. Now let's talk tech specs, because the Trail-Breaker wasn't just weird, it was mechanically brilliant in a hold-my-beer kind of way. Power came from a 134 cubic centimeter West Bend A2007 two-stroke single-cylinder engine, originally built for industrial applications. It made somewhere between 6 and 10 horsepower, depending on how optimistic your dealer was and how fresh the gas was. It was air-cooled, kick-started, and made a sound like an angry weed whacker chasing a chainsaw. That engine drove a central gearbox, originally fed by a fluid drive clutch, then later a centrifugal one, which powered both wheels via chain and shaft. Early models used a British Albion 3-speed box with hand lever shifting and no reverse. That gearbox, friends, didn't just take abuse, it encouraged it. There were only 3 gears, but somehow that was enough to climb cliffs, haul elk, and tow firewood through 3 feet, 914 millimeters of snow. The first Trail-Breakers used a drum on the front hub. In 1966, they added a disc brake on the front mitre box, the differential-looking thing that split power to the wheels. This braked both wheels through the drivetrain, an innovation that confused more than one Army test driver. Because yes, the United States Army tested these things. So did the Brazilian Marines, the Israelis, and rumor has it, even a few CIA field teams. I can't confirm that last part, but it sounds too perfect not to be partially true. Now the wheels? Oh, the wheels. Big 15-inch, 381 millimeters, aluminium monsters that could be filled with water, fuel, or sand. Each could hold 4.5 United States gallons, about 17 liters, making them the only motorcycle tires that doubled as auxiliary tanks and flotation devices. Yes, they float. You could drain the fuel, shove it in a river, and the bike would bob like a rubber duck. This was a motorcycle that didn't know its limits. It just kept going because nobody told it to stop. Suspension? Not unless you count the seat springs. The front fork was rigid steel tubing, and the rear didn't exist. Your spine was the rear suspension. Ground clearance was a ridiculous 15 inches, 381 millimeters. Wheelbase 51 inches, 1,295 millimeters. Dry weight hovered between 200 and 220 pounds, that's 90 to 100 kilograms. Overall length was about 6 feet 7 inches, 2 meters. Width around 2 feet 6 inches, 762 millimeters. And bar height about 3 feet 5 inches, 1,041 millimeters. Top speed? You weren't going to win Le Mans. Most trail breakers clocked in at around 20 to 25 miles per hour, 32 to 40 kilometers per hour, depending on terrain, load, and bravery. But it could climb 60% grades, tow a trailer full of cement, and keep going where even 4x4s got stuck. Fuel consumption hovered between 20 and 30 miles per gallon, 8.5 to 12.7 liters per 100 kilometers. And with the wheel tanks, range was around 500 miles, 805 kilometers, if you didn't spill anything. Production remained as exclusive as a country club with no bathrooms. Less than 1,000 units were sold by 1963, and even into the late 1960s, Rokon was only building a few hundred per year. About 150 bikes were made in 1967 alone. That makes early trail breakers rarer than a helpful internet comment. And since most were used, abused, and left to rust in tool sheds, surviving examples today are scarcer than a diet soda in a hunting lodge. Design-wise, the Rokon Trail-Breaker is what happens when a tank, a wheelbarrow, and a stubborn uncle walk into a welding shop. I think what I like the most is how unapologetically practical it is. No chrome, no plastic, no pretense, just steel tubing, rubber, and the scent of two-stroke ambition. It's the kind of machine you'd find parked behind a cabin next to an axe, 3 dented oil cans, and a shovel with a name carved in it. The handlebars don't whisper freedom, they bark. Hang on. The whole thing was built for function. Everything served a purpose. The flotation wheels doubled as fuel tanks, the disc brake doubled as a conversation starter, and the lack of suspension doubled as a chiropractor's retirement plan. But that's the beauty of it. This wasn't about comfort. It was about getting where no other bike dared to go, through swamps, snowbanks, and backyards full of toxic neighbors yelling about property lines. Collectors and survivalists alike have kept the legend alive. In 1969, you could pick up a new Rokon for about $695 United States dollars. That's about $6,200 or 5,800 euros today. Earlier models sold for $875, roughly $7,800 now. Not bad for a bike that could cross a river and tow a deer blind at the same time. But prices didn't stay that humble. In May 2025, a 1964 Trail-Breaker in original condition fetched $5,027 on Bring a Trailer. A 69 model pulled in $4,400. Another early one, a bit worse for wear, sold for just $1,100 at Mika Mindy 2025. That's what we call a project bike or garage divorce material. There's something weirdly noble about this machine. It didn't promise fun, but it delivered adventure. It didn't brag, it climbed. It didn't ask for praise, it earned it. I believe the Rokon Trail-Breaker deserves more respect than it gets, if only because it looks like a machine made from leftovers and still ended up more useful than half the vehicles at your local car meet. So dear viewers, if life ever throws you uphill in the mud, don't panic. Channel your inner Rokon. Engage both wheels, keep your foot on the gear lever, and remember, speed is temporary, but traction is forever. And if all else fails, fill your wheels with bourbon and float home.